It's the 19th of July. I'm just going to very quickly go through platinum and a couple of those correlated charts. They say please read this information, not trying to buy or sell any of these assets. Yeah, I just go for this because the low is due very, very soon in this market. Quite an important low is due sometime. It points to the end of July or into early August. So pretty massive move down on this chart. Now you can just go through a couple of things here, just so we're clear on what I think is likely going to happen. So the daily sinks here, it's this coming out next week. The following ones in late August, that's too late. So somewhere, um, I guess in the next week or so, a low is due in platinum. Now you can see what's happened here. Yeah, it's got this very long range coming in at roughly, what is that, 1500, should we call it? What I'd like to see is I'd like to see this just push down once more into this little gap down here. So we call it 14. So look at that. 1480 is the bottom of the range. That's where demand exceeds supply. Think about the very basic things. I keep showing you, like you went range low to range high to range low to range high to range low, and it broke out. So it's a fact, isn't it, that at this point here, what's that? 1490, there are more buyers than sellers. You can see what's happened here. It's just done this basing thing and just like to just like dip down once more and something like this just to conclude this phase, and then that would set up a more favorable period in theory for this market into August. Still very negative momentum, but that it has followed the forecast perfectly. You can see the regular rhythm to this chart. So on the high time frame, this chart is still very bullish. Let me just remove that and just so you can just see when I zoom out. Like, yeah, it's in a long-term uptrend. Had this massive, massive base that's been built out here. There's no real reason why it should be going below. The SR's down here, so dip into like the high 1400s. In my opinion, we would offer someone who's interested in like a long-term position in platinum a pretty decent entry after what's been a pretty significant drop for this entire phasing. So that has dropped by now. That would be a 50% drop if it followed what I think is likely going to happen. That is just one more move down into the ideal low to the extreme of this large base here. Should we just call it 1480 to 1490? That would be perfect. Then you're going to the next like rising phase. You can just see how here, if you think about the uranium update I did yesterday, like you think of it as very, very violent move down very early in phase, and you can see how it's corrected the whole phasing. You can even go one stage further, and you see how this is the mid-cycle point here, and you can see as soon as it take out the mid-cycle here had to rally, and that was why I put rally attempts likely to fail with a very high degree of probability because it's broken the midpoint. So it should correct for the entire phasing, and you can see we're getting very late in this final daily phasing. So just call it the end of July, the lowest due in platinum. And I'll show you the other charts as well. They're all kind of in sync. And so I'm just going to do a really quick summary on platinum so we're really clear. There's not a great deal to update since the last update. It's the same analysis, but I guess it's now we're in a period where we're looking for a bottom to form in this market. And the ideal coming out around about the end of July. Ideally, one more push down to the extremist range. 1480 to 1490 would do that. Um, and then that would be a 50% drop. Spent the whole cycle dropping. And then hopefully we're going to get some kind of bullish action out here into late summer. I'll show you the bigger correlated charts. So Impala Holdings is one of them. You can just see a very, very, very regular rhythm to this chart. Points to low that's coming out at the end of July. And it's the same as platinum. You can see it's just this gap down here about, I'd like to see it just take out this low and come into here. It's a very similar structure to platinum. Just do one thing here, just have a look at this. So the one-to-one comes right into that gap around about 9.3. What would that be? That would be a 13% move down. So ideally just one more push down in all of these, and then I'd like to see it break the pitchfork and move higher in this phase here. Um, yeah, so if we get one more push down in platinum, and then it's this phasing out here into August, September timing. It's got earnings coming out at the end of August as well. So I'd like to see it break the pitch floor and then form um, like the higher low basing into the daily, something like that, and then maybe we're going to get the move up here. And you can kind of see, I'll go through one more thing here. You can see it's broken the weekly low here. It's a bit like I showed you on the nuclear sector. That's unlikely going to make a new high in the following phase. It might just be a much longer period of correction. So just say for argument's sake, it came down to the 1-to-1. Just add on the golden zone here. Yeah, so maybe it's going to get some kind of rally in this phase up here into um, like the back half of the year, and then just form a much larger period of consolidation. It's just impossible to know what's going to happen, but that's the way I'm viewing platinum currently. Very, very deep move down, taking out the weekly low. It's very unlikely to make a new high in that phase, but it should set up a long trade. Because these charts are moving into levels where objectively demand does exceed supply, and you can just see it here. That's the range that broke higher, and the extreme of that range, should we just call it around about 9-ish, and make the gap, so we call it 9.7 to 9-ish. That's where there are more buyers and sellers. So it is time to pay attention to this sector, in my opinion, because a low is due very soon. So it could be setting up for a long trade, but unlikely going to go to a new all-time high in the following phase. And then obviously VAL is the other one, and ideally just one more push down in this as well. So it's that 7% move away from the demand zone there, and that comes out as a ideal at the end of July. So you can see this whole sector is currently in sync, lows pending. Just look at one thing here. So this one's not actually broken down from the prior weekly low. So it is this one is stronger, isn't it? So you can see the SR here. That's the level that I'd be looking at. And in theory, it should set up a long trade. Just look at one thing here. I'd be surprised if it could easily do something like this, just get the move down into demand, and then you'll be trading in this range here, and that range there was so look at that. That was a 20% move back to range high. Just box that off there. Yeah, so I guess that's the range we're trading in currently. So we're going to get some kind of move down, and then ideally like a bounce out here into the period that could be more favorable for this sector. I just have to keep updating these and tracking these, but you can clearly see the importance of the SR here at 97,000, we'll call it. So that's my bias on VAL. I'll move down into the range low and then looking for some kind of bounce out here. So all this sector are looking very, very, very similar. So just do a really quick summary so we're clear. So the group analysis tells us that a low is due at the end of July, possibly early August. It appears to me that we're still ongoing in this correction, but we're coming to the end of this daily phase. You think about the principle of synchronicity, or the cycle could be pointing down. It does suggest that it's likely, in my opinion, you're going to get one more push down in this sector, and then that should set up a bullish period. I'll be treating it like counter trend currently, because I think you go into much more protracted correction. The next high time frame low comes way out here in 2027. So just go phase by phase. So coming to the end of this weekly phase, in theory, that should set up a long trade. From demand, looking for one more push down. Should just say 1490-ish is where demand exceeds supply. So very, very, very close to that. On the very high time frame, platinum is still obviously very bullish. I would imagine over many, many years from now, it's going to be trading above this high. So I guess if you're a long-term investor who's not really looking to manage positions and trade them, then you can see that it'll be 100% move back to the all-time high. I imagine that will come eventually.